By noon sunlight poured through the glass walls of the downtown cafe, turning coffee cups into mirrors and making every face too visible to hide behind. That was where Marcus Hale sat alone with a paper napkin folded too many times, checking his phone even though he knew no message was coming. He had agreed to a blind date after weeks of nudging, teasing, and cruel encouragement from people who called themselves friends. A single father, they said, deserved to get back out there. A man who spent his evenings packing lunches and ironing tiny school shirts needed to remember he was still a man. Marcus believed them because believing was easier than admitting he was lonely. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of doing the right thing when no one expects it, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Your support helps stories like this reach the hearts that need them most. Marcus was 36, with tired eyes softened by patience and a posture shaped by years of carrying grocery bags in one hand and a sleeping child in the other. His life had shrunk after his wife passed away 3 years earlier, not dramatically but gradually, like a room losing furniture piece by piece until echoes replaced comfort. He worked as a maintenance supervisor in a municipal building, a job that kept him on his feet during the day and left him exhausted by dusk. His son, Theo, was 8 and brilliant in the quiet ways that only children who have learned loss early can be. Every morning was a race against time, but every afternoon was a promise Marcus never broke. He was there at the school gate, every single day, in daylight, with a wave and a smile that hid the ache. The blind date had been suggested during a lunch break that smelled of reheated leftovers and sarcasm. A group of co-workers laughed too loudly, exchanged looks, and sold the idea as a harmless push. They said the woman was sweet, that she wanted to meet a good man, that Marcus would be perfect. They left out the part that mattered. They left out their intention to watch from across the cafe, phones ready, waiting for discomfort to turn into entertainment. When the door opened and she walked in, the room did what rooms often do when someone different enters. It paused. Her name was Alina Brooks, though Marcus wouldn't learn it right away. She was in her early 30s, wearing a soft blue dress that caught the daylight without trying to steal it. Her hair was neatly braided, pulled over one shoulder, and her face carried a careful calm, the kind that comes from learning how to occupy space that others think you should not. She was a plus-size woman, unapologetically present, and she scanned the room with a hopeful uncertainty that settled on Marcus like a question. Across the cafe, the laughter began before the introductions. It was subtle at first, hidden behind cups and menus, but it grew bold as whispers turned into nudges. The plan was working. Marcus felt the heat rise to his ears, not because of Alina, but because he suddenly understood. The realization landed with a weight heavier than any joke. He had been set up, not for connection, but for cruelty. Alina approached the table with a tentative smile, her steps measured as if she had learned long ago to minimize herself. Marcus stood up immediately, pulling out the chair without thinking, a reflex shaped by respect rather than performance. The small gesture surprised her, and something softened in her eyes as she sat. The daylight framed them both, no shadows to hide intentions, no evening darkness to excuse behavior. As they sat, Marcus felt the eyes on them, the expectation that he would recoil or fake politeness or invent an excuse to leave. He imagined the laughter that would follow, the story retold at work, the way humiliation would become currency. He could have ended it quickly. He could have protected himself by participating in the joke. Instead, he took a breath and did something radical in a room full of daylight and judgment. He chose honesty without harm. Marcus spoke about his life, not as a confession but as a fact. He explained, in steady words, that he was a single father, that his days were full and his heart was cautious. He acknowledged the awkwardness of blind dates, the vulnerability of showing up without armor. He did not apologize for being there, and he did not apologize for who Alina was. He told her, with a calm clarity that carried across the table, that he believed no one deserved to be someone else's punchline. He said that if this meeting was meant to be a joke, it ended the moment she walked in, because kindness did not require attraction to be valid. Those words traveled. They moved past the table, past the cups and menus, and landed where the laughter had been. The cafe grew quieter, not from embarrassment alone, but from recognition. Alina listened, her hands resting on the table, fingers still. She had heard many versions of rejection before, often dressed as concern or humor. This was different. This was dignity offered without condition. They talked then, not in flirtation, but in truth. Marcus learned that Alina worked as a library assistant, that she loved morning sunlight because it made the shelves glow, that she volunteered at a community garden on weekends. Alina learned about Theo's obsession with model trains, about Marcus's habit of cooking breakfast for dinner, about the way grief taught him to listen more than he spoke. The cafe continued its daytime rhythm around them, but something steady had formed at the table, a small island of mutual respect.